This is Kayla Loomis, and today I will be talking about how the use of multimodal literacies can affect the way that students can understand what they learn. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is just the order of topics on what I will be going over today. So we are first going to talk about the definition of multimodal literacy, some examples of multiliteracies, questions to think about, my research question, some article key points from 2 different articles, the benefits of multimodal literacies, and my personal experiences while I have been learning so far. So to first define the term multimodal literacies is when individuals engage in multiple modes of text to create meaning from different learning styles. Examples of what multimodal literacies can include would be some of the things on this page. The first thing that I have on here is graphic novels, and I have some just examples of what some of the children or students would read in their classes. The next thing is storyboards, and a good website to create storyboards would be Storyboard That. And the kids in my 5th grade classroom, while I was student teaching, really enjoyed just creating and communicating through images and text. The next thing I have on here is posters, where you could create different types of communications and communicate through art. And the next and last thing I have on here for examples is to communicate through music and dance. And these are just different ways that you can communicate through different texts. Next, I have some questions for you to pause and think about in your own teaching. So the first question that I have is, what are some examples of multimodal literacies that you utilize in your classroom? And the next question that I have is, how do you think the use of multimodal literacies can affect the outcome of the diverse students in your classroom? So you can go ahead and pause the video and take down some notes on what you think to answer these questions. So my research question for this presentation would be, how does the use of multimodal literacies affect a student's understanding of what they learn? In the first article that I read, titled Multiliteracies in the Classroom, Emerging Concept of First-Year Teachers, the authors asked the question, how do first-year teachers understand and experience multiliteracies? And some of the important facts and information that I got out of this article included that teachers require opportunities to acquire knowledge and skills needed for their future classrooms, such as multiliteracies. This is because literacy has expanded into different situations and has grown throughout our society and in our classrooms today. One of the other things that I really learned from this article was that students will take more ownership in things that they enjoy, and therefore it equals more effort and time into their assignments. Another big piece that I got out of this article was that technology has increased and will continue to increase as time goes on in our society. Lastly, from this article, literacies continue to change and develop, and then that means that educators need to understand how to incorporate multiliteracy into their classrooms. When I will be a first-year teacher, I will incorporate multimodal literacies into my classroom so that every single student in my classroom can succeed in their education. The second article that I read, it was titled A Review of Multiliteracy Pedagogy in Primary Classrooms, and the author asked a question titled, How the concept of multiliteracies have been used and understood in primary classroom research. One important quote that I thought was very interesting from this article was that the most important skill that the students need to learn is the ability to negotiate regional, ethnic, or class-based dialects or cross-cultural discourses, and non-English speaking countries or societies should also be included. And this kind of just told me that students need to learn how to communicate across different cultures. And one way that teachers can help their students do this is to have students incorporate multimodal literacies throughout their understanding and what they learn. In this next slide, I have it titled Benefits of Multimodal Literacy, and I've broken it down into 3 different pieces that I think all teachers should understand when incorporating multimodal literacies into their classroom. Now, the first main topic that I have, I titled The World. And what I have written down is that we live in a world that is multimodal. What I mean by that is that we have so many different multimodal texts, such as film, animation, slideshows, posters, digital stories, posters, comics, and so much many more things, and that students can communicate through all of these texts. The next main topic that I have is titled Promote Self-Awareness. What I have written down is that students will be able to reflect on what learning style fits them best. So like I said before, we live in a world that has so many different multimodal texts that students have to use while they are communicating and developing their answers. And students will be able to just kind of figure out what things they like best and learn best from these texts. Now, the next and final main point that I have on this slide is that it is titled Cultural Awareness. And what I have written down is that students can learn how to communicate across different cultures through the various modes of literacy texts. Now, on this slide, I've titled it Personal Experiences. And in my graduate work so far, I have had the opportunity to express my thoughts and my answers through multimodal literacies. The first experience that I have is coming out of my comfort zone. As a graduate student, I've had the opportunities to learn how to use different modalities in my learning and in my teaching. In my teaching so far, I have had the opportunity to allow students to create storyboards and create posters and presentations that the students have really came to enjoy instead of just writing down their answers. So I have learned that way of using multimodal literacies. When it comes to my graduate work, I have had the opportunity to answer my questions through images, through visual journaling, through blackout poetry, just different types of ways that I can communicate my thoughts through modalities. The next one is motivation. I personally have been able to become more motivated to portray my thoughts and answers in different ways instead of just writing it out like I said before. And my last experience is that the learning outcome. I have been able to learn many different things and more ways to communicate because of the images that I can use when communicating my thoughts. Now, to come back to my research question of how does the use of multimodal literacies affect a student's understanding of what they learn, I want you to finally pause the video and answer this question for yourself in your teaching for today. And now this is the end, so I just wanted to say thank you for listening and for your time today.